Smile.
Feeling better.
Because then I can see better.
Okay.
What's that? I was up, I'm no pain whatsoever after surgery. It was gone like immediately. But it felt like somebody beat me across the back of the head. From the pulling the muscles. It still hurts a little bit. I walked in there at 8 o'clock, I was home by 5:30. I couldn't take a shower for 3 days, and then I finally did. It's like, they must have had me taped to the table, so I didn't move.
You know, I don't know. It was such a whirlwind.
Yeah.
There's almost 500 pages of those novel copies. 400 pages.
Oh. Well, when they put me out, you know, I was joking around with nurses and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't remember going to pre-operative. Operating. I woke up with an operating. Laying there looking around, see if all the equipment and that stuff. They put it in this evening, and when I woke up after surgery, they had to put another four in. And I freaking top of my hand. I'm still going. I don't need it. I had to Friday.
Yeah, I got the one. I was on Florence.
So it was like 7:30, so I started at
Yeah, I remember you talking about that. I don't have any chickens. I have the one for
I was able to get out.
But remember bringing water? You see over here.
Next step is
gonna do that in the next meeting, or?
So the planning commission is gonna be on next Tuesday, the 20th.
Yeah, we said so. Give a quick question, is there anything for me to do today that would help in any way? Really nothing.
No, truthfully, everything, the agreement is approved by me and by your attorney.
So if I would've had it today, I would've sped it up.
If I would have had it, a day or so.
I wasn't aware of this meeting until last minute, so it was.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Well
so,
then, alright, then, and then the, letters to you, but those we'll also do them next time.
yeah, so I sent out, I think to your attorney, you know, what was, I was gonna. And that's gonna, it'll be on the agenda for July 12th meeting.
So I can just hang on to these till next meeting.
So the planning commission needs to sign that first, so you might wanna come out Tuesday night, but it's gonna be more crowded than this.
Can I leave it? I think you're
It'll be here, it'll be at the middle school.
That would be funny though. That's what it's afraid of.
Yes.
I needed to do an
Yes, if you come, if you try to come at like 6:45, because they don't need, you don't need to speak, you just need to sign it for you.
Alright, I'll be there at 6:45, next week.
Tuesday the 20th. At the middle school. Alright.
They could make it while we're on $4 to get stuff here. Hey. Are you ready, Ben? Oh, you said. Oh. Okay. All right. All right, 7 o'clock, I'd like to call to order the June meeting of the Windsor Township Board of Supervisors. Before we start, I'd like to invite everybody to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, seeing as we have a large crowd tonight, we want to keep the noise down in the audience, one person talking at a time, so we can hear everybody's comments. And we'll get through it. All right. First item on the agenda, someone make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 10th meeting of the board. I'll make that motion. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor say aye. Ayes have it. Okay, public comment is more or less reserved for citizens of the township. Is that correct? Through our recently passed resolution.
Citizens of the township to make make comment to the board, not for back and forth dialogue, but just to make comment to the board. And I believe our policy limits comment to 5 minutes, and if there's a group, we ask that the group address the board and not each individual member address the board, and with the same information.
Yes, so you pick a representative from your group to represent your group and that person will speak. All right? So I will be asking for your addresses as we go down this list. First up is Jeff Bryant.
Good evening, gentlemen. My address is 130 Blile Road. The Windsor Burke's Concerned Citizens, majority of the people here in this room, a group composed of Windsor Township residents and neighbors have serious concerns about the 224-page conditional use application submitted by Mountain Trail Solar for a large solar farm of approximately 440 acres on 476 acres of land in Windsor Township. And that was, of course, submitted on January 24th of 2023. We list our concerns below on a document that I'm going to give you, each of you. Remember, you represent us. You represent the Windsor Township residents, and it is your duty, each of you, to review all of this information before making any sort of decision on this conditional use application. We thank you for your service, and we are entering this information into the official public record. Just a quick outline of the concerns that you must address before voting on Mountain Trail Solar's conditional use application. Decommissioning costs and minimum bond. Fire safety measures. Potentially toxic solar panels and health risks. Electrical codes and plans. Construction and maintenance plans. Glare and glint issues. Agricultural impacts, stormwater runoff, protecting wetlands, FEMA flood plan, wildlife impact, property value, bullying and transparency. There has been an utter lack of transparency throughout this entire process. Refusal to answer questions at that meeting in March. So we have a petition which I will submit, and I'm going to give each of you a packet, a detailed packet of information. I only have one copy of the petition. So I guess I can give that, I'll give that to you. And then each of you have a packet for each of you. You're welcome. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you. All right, next up is Mark Reed.
I reside at 226 Pondview Drive, Leesburg. All right, I'm gonna cover some fire safety measures that we want you to consider. Fires are typically caused by DC arcing, faulty parts, bad installation, bad weather, wind, lightning strikes, hail, etc. The physical damage caused by other means, birds, stray bullets. Residents along Blisle Road experience a lot of high winds coming across Frederick's land. Stray bullets are a risk as hunting is common in Windsor Township and surrounding areas. It's a challenge to isolate an arc fault because solar panels cannot be turned off. They can only be disconnected from the grid. Studies completed by FireTrace International, published in August of 2022, a leading provider of fire suppression technology, indicates solar fires are seeing a sharp rise. The report states that 3 root causes of photovoltaic fires, namely error practices. The greatest risk are DC isolators, which cause around 1/3 of solar fire incidents. However, DC connectors and inverters can also pose a significant risk. We need to see an emergency response plan that Mountain Trail Solar presented to the Windsor Township Fire Marshal. We need to see how they are addressing firefighting training for electrical. We're being told and what we're hearing from other solar companies is they say just let the fire burn out. You know, you take this kind of weather this time of the year with it being dried, you know, that fire leaches off into the other fields and stuff like that, and we've got a major catastrophe on our hands. We also like to know what kind of personal protective equipment the fire department are going to be housed with. Some of these things consist of foam, nitrogen, things like that. Our fire department's going to be housed with that stuff, and not just the local ones. I'm sure, everybody's familiar with the big fire that was here just a couple of weeks ago with that building that, had the 28,000 gallons of oil in it. What was it, 11 fire companies responded to that,
Where was that one?
over in Lenhartsville.
Okay. That was only 3,000 gallons. Okay.
Was that?
It was only 3,000 gallons,
Okay,
not 28,000.
All right, 3,000 gallons. All right, 3,000 gallons, all right, I stay corrected.
I was there with that, so.
But again, you know, how many fire departments were there?
It was actually only 6.
6?
And that was because they couldn't get manpower.
Right.
So Kempton came down with their trucks, hit it with foam, but they needed manpower. That's the only reason they called the extra 6 in.
Okay.
And stuff, so.
All right. And we need to see a plan for the substation, switching stations, and associated bioretention facility. We need to know the bioretention pond will not leak oil or lubricants into the environment. We need to know where the central command will be located for the solar farm. We need to know the transmission operator will be located and what their job entails. A certified electrical engineer needs to review Mountain Trail solar plans. Solar companies are being Windsor Township does not have its own fire company. We rely on Hamburg and Virginville fire companies. Travel times and fires could be longer with hazmat. There are many cases of solar panels catching fire, solar farm fires on Google and YouTube. To find articles and videos, you'd be able to see that in some of the attached documents that we gave you. Potentially toxic solar panels and health risks. We'd like to see the exact specifications of solar panels to be used, included in the application. We don't want toxic chemicals in our solar panels. We need to see the data sheets for the solar panels. U.S. Department of Energy National Renewable Energy Laboratory titled Best Practices at the End of Photovoltaic System Performance Period states on page 17 through 19, avoid hazardous materials. It also states hazardous materials can be in wafer cell, thin cell, solder, covered glass, and black sheets. PV models might contain approximately 10 grams of lead per module, mostly in the solder, but also in the cell metallization layers. Thin film cell made of copper, indium selenide, contains selenium, which can be toxic when oxidized. Some covered glass manufacturers add antimony to provide the high transparency required for solar spectrum, which can leach into the acidic landfills.
Could you shorten it up a little bit?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. So again, we'd like to, we demand to know if Mountain Trail Solar will use the leaded burn method used for electrical vehicle fires in some, for fire times, use water. We need to be trucked in, very expensive. We demand to know if residents are injured in the solar farm, if their medical care will be covered by Mountain Trail Solar. And I'll cut it short to allow the next people to, for the time.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Mark Reed. Mark Reed.
My name is Max Stevens, and I live at 401 Stevens Drive. And in the application for Mountain Solar, I saw that they were abiding by the National Electrical Code. A couple of the bullet points I read through the National Electrical Code were the National Electrical Code is designed for insurance underwriting, facilities management, construction management, and product testing. A couple of my big concerns here are that it says in the book that we should have an authority of having jurisdiction to review all electrical plans. And for a project this size, I wonder who's going to take and review all the electrical plans. A couple other notes that I found were in NFPA 70, it states anything over 2,500 kV is considered to be an industrial installation. We are at a 50 megawatt plant, which is 50,000 kVA, so we're quite very, very far into an industrial installation and not a commercial installation. So my question to everybody is, how is this deemed as a commercial or ag type of project when we're in a very serious megawatt type of project? A couple other things we're concerned about is the people at Hawk Mountain are also concerned about, you know, the large solar facility, and it actually attracts birds through research. So, I mean, I'm just trying to keep everybody out of, there's bald eagle's nest in the area. There is kestrels nest in the area. There is all sorts of different birds of prey area, and I don't want us to make our township to make the news because we injured some bald eagles. And another one that I found in the book that brings up a pretty good point is that it requires a central command to monitor the plant the whole time. So I'm wondering where the central command is going to be and what sort of personnel Mountain Solar is going to have on the facility to monitor things like fires and just monitor systems and give people the proper response and the community the proper response. That is it.
All right, thank you. Next. All right. Next up is Mike Palahong.
Not bad.
I'll give you a chance at my last name next.
That's an easy one.
My apologies.
Not at all. The area that, action items that we have for the construction and maintenance plans for this project, again, something that Matt mentioned, we need to know the exact solar panels and their specifications as this affects the health and the safety of the community. We need to know exactly how high solar panels will be mounted. The application currently states they will be under 20 feet, which is not specific enough. During construction, we need to know how Mountain Trail Solar will minimize dust. As if they're using water, we need to see what their plan will be to obtain the water. Do they need to do their own wells? And again, if there's a lot of water taken, that's going to affect the water table in our area. The community likely will not have enough water, so we'll have to be trucked in, which is expensive to clean these panels potentially. We need to know what kind of maintenance will be done on the solar farm. Panels will accumulate dirt, pollen, etc., which will affect their efficiency. If solar panels are to be washed, we need to know where the water will come from, where it will need to be trucked in, which is expensive. We also need to know how proposed vegetation around the panels and by fence will be cared for, mowing, weeding, pesticide, etc. We need to see the maintenance plan for that. Next action item. If access roads are being built, we need to know how they will be constructed. We need to know what happens after construction is completed and when the solar farm is decommissioned or dismantled due to damage, etc. Next action item. We need to know what type of fencing will be around the site. Mountain Trail Solar mentions a fence farm, application page 12, an 8-foot ag style fence surrounding the site, application page 4. We want to know the specifics to this type of fencing. What is it made of? We need to know if animals are blocked from entering the solar farm. We'll need to know if people will be prevented from entering the solar farm as well. Another example, if a deer gets trapped within the solar farm fence, what is the plan to help get the animals out if possible? Next item, we need to see a sound study to make sure it complies with our ordinance. Despite current discussions regarding decommissioning, the reality is that the rural land will be lost forever. Industrial scale solar projects are typically 30 to 40 years. Construction of an industrial solar power plant requires removal of trees, brush, root balls prior to installation of the arrays, creating an ecological wasteland. Grading, pile driving, blasting, electric cabling, the road construction will compact the soil, likely delaying agricultural use for years at the project's end. Stripping and compaction removes topsoil, destroys healthy soil organisms, which allows for invasion of exotic plants that choke out native species. Citizens responsible for solar's 10 reasons industrial scale solar isn't right for agricultural areas. That's my section.
All right, thank you, Matt.
248 Old Route 22, Leonardsville.
What's the?
2248 Old Route 22, Leonardsville.
And is this your wife that wants to speak next, or you together?
Correct. Yes, it's.
So yeah, same
I'm not
address.
gonna, I won't botch your name up a second.
It's Helena, in case anybody needs to know. Good evening, all. I'm going to speak about the agricultural impacts Agricultural class 1 through 4 soils should be avoided for grid scale solar according to the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. You can reference the farmland considerations for siting grid scale solar panels published on 12/23/2022. This proposed solar project would be substantially built on class 2 and class 3 soils. The Berks-Weichert complex soils with 3 to 8% slope are class 2. The Berks-Weichert complex soils with 8 to 15% slope are class 3. For example, the electrical substation that would be built on class 2 BKB soils across from the entrance of the mushroom farm. We need to know what will happen to the topsoil once the construction begins. If the topsoil is removed, we need to know where it is going and whether it will be returned once the solar farm is decommissioned. It can take years for dormant land to be restored to farming. I'm sure all the farmers here know that. And our ordinance of section 615 requires land to be restored and revegetated within 90 days of not generating commercial energy. We need to know how this will be accomplished. This land is agricultural, so it must be restored to a farmable agricultural land. We need to see the solar company's plan to restore this to a farmable agricultural land. And we are demanding a toxic and hazardous waste liability assessment, since solar panels that are broken are considered hazardous waste and must be handled accordingly. So we need to see Mountain Trail Solar Hazmat and DEP plan for handling these hazardous materials and contaminated soil. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Same as Laura. Yep. All right, next up is Bill Knowles.
Evening, Bill Knowles, I live at 206 Lyle Road. I was asked to, want to see if maybe you want to take a look at some of the historical background. The Commonwealth Heritage Group had completed a phase 1 study of the area where this is proposed. They also recommend a phase 1B archaeological study be done as well. To quote their report, it is Commonwealth's opinion that areas of high, moderate, and low sensitivity within the proposed Mountain Trail Solar LLC project should be subjected to appropriately designed phase 1B archaeological survey in accordance with the Pennsylvania State Historic Preservation Office. Excuse me. We'd like to see that is done, and we want to be able to review the phase 1B study before any vote's taken on the application. Also, historical perspective, there's 39 unrecorded above-ground resources constructed before 1977 within a quarter-mile radius around the project boundary. That's on their application on page 211. That needs to be considered. Also, this Sunday Farm is under historical consideration, and yet the solar company wants to run a right-of-way by burying underground cables through their property, which I don't think is something that should be done. We've got word of other solar companies, not throwing any stones at this one, trying to bully supervisors. There was out in Mountjoy, they threatened to sue the supervisors that were listening to people trying to fight the project. They were told if they didn't approve the plan, they'd sue them. Some people, from what I understand, changed their vote as a result of the threats, and now the residents are suing the supervisors. So just a little caution there. And then Jeff had mentioned earlier about we need to have transparency through this whole project. We don't feel like we've been getting it. You know, please follow the public notices, take the minutes, make sure the minutes are posted for the residents to see, whether it's a planning commission or board of supervisors, but we would appreciate that kind of transparency. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Ronald Seigel.
Ron Stabile, 198 Lyle Road.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. My topic I wanted to discuss after reading through things is on glare. We basically say in our ordinance 615-0 that the solar energy system shall be located on a building, lot, or parcel in a manner that avoids direct concentration of solar radiation or glare onto any adjacent property or public way. All we've heard from Mountain Solar at this point in their application is something to the effect the solar facility has been designed in a manner that avoids directing concentrated glare onto any adjacent properties or public way, period. So we want to know if there's a study that they did or an analysis of some form, or what method that they used to determine that. If they have the study or the analyses, we'd like to see it. We'd like it provided to all the adjacent landowners. Our ordinance, section 501.4, suggests that if there is potential harm to any residents, that a land development system or land management plan has to be provided by our township. So I'm wondering if that is being pursued or not. We basically have a tool that's out there for Mountain Solar if they were so interested, Solar Glare Hazard Analysis Tool, which a lot of solar companies use, by the way. It provides a 365 days a year analysis as to, you know, who's being impacted by this. A lot of school buses, in particular, were concerned about Sunday Road, but in just driving over here today, I mean, I'm leaving Blisle, I'm looking at southern exposure from the mushroom plant coming down. So Crick Road, you know, there's a lot of potential viewership problems from a you know, school bus or even a passenger car standpoint. Let's see here. That's all. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. All right, next up, Mr. Robert Hoffner.
Robert Hoffner, 210 Blisle Road. I'm here to discuss the stormwater situation. First of all, to start it off, I know firsthand the stormwater that directly comes off Frederick's farm. It affects 3 people here. It affects Jason Greaves right through their yard, Bill Knowles, and Ron Seigel. I had Barry Isaac come out and through grant money to manage the stormwater project. They didn't anticipate these solar panels, so we did major construction. So this water is affecting 3 of them yards going right through their property. And I could show you a picture of Ron Seigil's yard and where this water is going to go through. This is Bill Knowles. This is all this solar panel water is going to be going through their yard, just like this. This was designed by an engineering firm that farmland, not for solar panels. So that's going to overload.
What size pipe is that?
I don't know, it's 30 inch and it's 18 inch coming off the farm, his farm. This is Ron Seigil's yard. Look at the where that water's going to run. And that's coming right from his farm. See all this? Now my property won't be affected. It's the wetlands. They had to dig this out to drain Ron Seigil's yard. All this might be modified. This is the managed the stormwater from Frederick's farm. All this was done, but it was designed for the farm, not for solar panels. All this might have to be all redone, because them 3 people will be. This is all done to manage a farm, and it took a tremendous amount of money, and they're gonna have to redo that.
Who paid for this?
I got lucky, I got funding from Growing Greener,
Okay.
and it
Can I
was,
see the rest of them?
yeah.
Thank you.
I put wetlands on my property, and that was a problem. We're not blaming anybody in the township. When they build homes, they didn't do stormwater planning. And I showed up for a conservation meeting, and I raised my hand, nobody wanted swamp. I got swamp, and then I made that part of the demands. I got all the write-ups.
Good? Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I think we brought that point up before.
And this is the stormwater, this is a whole layout, the bronze to Bill's, Bill Knowles.
Can we keep that?
You can keep it.
All right. You want your pictures back?
No, you can look at them.
Okay, yeah, they'll be up here then for, you can pick them up.
See,
again.
the engineering firm did it for a farm, not for solar panels.
Yeah.
It was major work.
Yeah, there's a difference. All right, thank you. All right, next up, Tower Green.
That's easy to pronounce.
Yeah. Thank you for making it easier.
Thank my husband. I'm 101 Stephen in Lyndhurst. So I'm talking about the decommissioning costs and minimum bond. So the ballpark estimate to build a 50 megawatt solar farm is about $50 million. On page 45 of Mountain Trail Solar's application, it states that the solar farm is going to generate up to 64 megawatts. This conflicts with what they present on page 3 of their application, which talks about the 50 megawatts. We need to know how many megawatts, as this will impact the decommissioning costs and required minimum bond. We ask that you don't accept Mountain Trail Solar's estimated decommissioning cost. Their interest obviously is to keep their costs as low as possible and not pay the full decommissioning cost. The decommissioning bond is required by Windsor Township Ordinance Section 6150. This section speaks about decommissioning the solar farm at any time the farm is not in use for 6 months or at the end of its useful life. A bond must be posted in the amount of the estimated decommissioning cost and is escalated by 10% every 5 years. The 10% escalation every 5 years needs to include a provision that if the 10% is not paid within the 60-day due date, the application is out of compliance and the conditional use is rescinded. The 90-day decommissioning will begin immediately and must be completed in 90 days. Mountain Trail Solar claims that the solar farm could operate up to 50 years, according to application page 6. They state they will post a bond to cover the decommissioning costs, but they don't list an amount. We have no way to predict inflation 50 years down the road. The bond estimated must include complete removal and restoration in 90 days per our ordinance. The Department of Energy's National Renewable Energy Laboratory paper titled Best Practices at the End of the Photovoltaic System Performance Period has detailed guidelines for estimating decommissioning. Pages 10 and 11 discuss decommissioning plans and estimated costs. Now their estimates of a bond amount for decommissioning a 50 megawatt solar farm is $15 to $22 million, and that's from 2021. The difference is dependent on the chemical composition and disposal method of these solar panels. The Department of Energy's $15 to $22 million from 2021 is now $17 to $25 million as of April 23, according to the U.S. calculators. The initial bond amount needs to be based on the 17 to 25 million estimated costs. Hire our own independent registered PA engineer to get a proper estimate that will be in line with the Department of Energy estimate and require Mountain Trail Solar to pay for it. The exact specification of the solar panels has not been disclosed in the application, so we must assume they are using the thin film cells containing either cadmium telluride or copper iridium gallium selenide. Both types of panels contain dangerous and hazardous materials that push the decommissioning cost closer to the $25 million mark. Recycling costs should not be deducted from the decommissioning cost estimate because recycling values vary over time. Assigning a value to waste material 35 to 50 years in the future is an exercise in futility. Panels need to be disposed of properly, classified as hazardous waste either now or in the future. Consider this. If Windsor Township needs to exercise this bond at any point in the future, there is one indisputable fact. Mountain Trail Solar has left the mess to you and you alone. You better have all the $25 million plus the 5-year escalations you need to completely remove all the hazardous panels and equipment and restore the site back to farmland within the 90 days as stated in our ordinance. Solar companies are being subsidized by the U.S. government, taxpayer money. Without these subsidies, solar companies would be unable to afford to construct new solar farms as they are cost prohibitive and unprofitable. Here's another fact. You may need to exercise this bond at any point in the near future as well. Bankruptcy and many other factors can ruin the profitability of this project at any time. We don't need another environmental mess like the one currently at Kircher Creek in Windsor Township with no money to clean that up. That mess is just a few acres. This one is going to be 440 acres over 476 acres of land with no chance to get another dime from anywhere else to complete the job. The bond must be bankruptcy proof. Any change in ownership must be pre-approved by Windsor Township. The bond agreement and all other provisions of the conditional use and solar ordinance must extend to any new owner of the solar farm. Holding a bond that more closely reflects the decommissioning better ensures Windsor Township that the land will be fully returned to farmland at the appropriate time. Our solar ordinance states that the solar company is responsible for additional costs at decommissioning, and that's unrealistic. Windsor Township needs to demand a bond higher than $25 million if Mountain Trail Solar is building a 50 megawatt solar farm. If they're building a 64 megawatt solar farm, we definitely need a much higher bond amount. Please do not settle for anything less. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next up is Rosemary Schmetzer.
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 Not Schmetzer.
Schmetzer.
Good evening, everyone. I'm speaking about the wildlife impact. It affects birds, deer, amphibians, reptiles, and other mammals. Birds can see solar farms as ponds or lakes and dive towards bodily harm and or death and damage to solar equipment, which started by birds getting caught in wires. Cows and pigs are sensitive to stray voltage, so are humans, but to a lesser extent. Large-scale developments, warehouse or industrial-scale solar facilities are incompatible with the conservation value of the Kittanning Corridor and the Hawk Mountain Preservation Area. Large-scale solar facilities deplete habitat for nesting and migrating, also have been associated with the direct mortality of birds. According to Hawk Mountain, we live in an area that for many birds, 18,000 raptors and 70,000 other birds. We need to protect this corridor for migration. The Kittanning Ridge is a designated state conservation landscape by Pennsylvania and state agencies that actively are working with the Kittanning Coalition led by the Audubon PA and the Nature Conservancy to conserve land and heighten public awareness of the importance of this rural landscape for people and wildlife, wildland recreation and scenic values. A key statewide goal for the Ridge Corridor is to maintain a mix of rural lands with uses such as farming, forests, and wetlands near the ridges that can continue to support habitat for wildlife using the corridor. Lands provide migration habitat for flying and resting birds and feeding opportunities during long migrations from Canada south to South America. We demand to see a wildlife impact study completed by a third party to determine the effects of a large industrial solar generation farm and what it will have on wildlife. Mountain Trail Solar needs to contact the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources to determine whether they are endangered or threatened species living on the site. The township and residents need to see this report before a vote can be considered on this application. And just so you gentlemen are aware, the Kittanini Group is affiliated with the Sierra Club, which is a national organization for preservation, conservation, and wildlife. They are in the process of, their board is doing its due diligence on this proposed bill. They are 1,300 members who live in Berks and Schuylkill counties, and they have the support of Hawk Mountain. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
36 Hilltop Road, Glen Hartsville.
Elaine Grievous?
Greaves.
Greaves? Sorry.
So I'm here to talk to you about the property value. There are currently 48 homes with properties that touch the proposed solar farm, most within 300 feet. Ordinance section 903.4E states, such use shall not adversely affect the character of the zoning district, nor the conservation of property values, nor the health and safety of residents or workers on adjacent properties and in general neighborhood. There are various reputable sources that state that the property values will be significantly affected as a direct result of the installation of a solar farm. These depreciation values vary from single digits to 20% and beyond. Mountain Trail Solar wants us to believe that its solar farm will have no effect on our property values. If this were true, then solar companies would not be offering good neighbor fees to adjacent property owners. Residents who accept these agreements are forbidden to talk about them. These fees are made up for loss in property value and or to pacify residents so they will not resist their project being approved, also known as silencing your opposition. A few solar companies that have paid good neighbor fees include Western Mustang Solar, Light Source BP, Posey Solar LLC, and Vesper Energy, who offered property owners between 5 to 50K based on distance to the solar farm. We demand that a third-party property impact study be procured by the township, but paid for by the solar company. We demand a visual impact study 1 mile around the proposed site. We are concerned about what will happen to our properties if the Mountain Trail Solar Farm causes our wells to be contaminated or dried up, or causes water to get into our basements and yards because they are not effectively managed rainwater. This happened recently in Fleetwood by another solar company. We need to know who will clean up and fix our roads, yards, wells, etc. due to negligence. I live at 214 Blisle Road, and Bob mentioned it. We actually had some flooding 3 years back. So just from coming off of Frederick's land into ours, flooded our basement, totally destroyed the whole front of our property, and our backyard is a marsh when it rains. It gets packed. If an 8-foot fence is being used to, and only a 1 foot off the ground, animal entrance is being built, there will be issues with the wildlife passing through the area. Deer will end up foraging on other farmers' fields, causing more crop damage than usual. If you still don't believe that property values are affected, then let's imagine for a moment that there are two identical properties, each listed for the same price. One property overlooks a solar farm, while the other overlooks a beautiful, serene countryside, as we have today. Ask yourself, if you were in this situation, which house and view would you want outside your house? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Good job.
All right, next up is Susan DeTurk.
Good evening. My name is Susan Dietrich, and I'm a resident of Windsor Township, 142 Blau Road. 142 Blau Road. So I'm a registered nurse with a doctorate in nursing practice and certified in healthcare quality. Over the years, I have learned about many nursing theories. These daily theories guide evidence-based research leading to best practices and improved outcomes. As I researched solar energy and health risks, the uncertainty theory came to mind. Uncertainty is a common emotional reaction to the experience of critical illness. Michelle's uncertainty and illness theory provides a conceptual framework to explain how uncertainty transpires and affects psychological adjustment to the cancer experience. Commonly, uncertainty triggers include a lack of medical information, an incomplete understanding of treatment choices, or typical course of illness, and difficulty coping with the instability of daily life. Fortunately, I can access a university's library. I conducted an advanced search on solar energy systems and found the impacts of solar energy on safety, health, and environment. So much uncertainty. According to Aman et al. 2015, solar energy is considered a green source of power. However, some safety, health, and environmental issues should be addressed before the widespread application of solar technology. Indeed, photovoltaic or PV solar panels may not pollute the air during power generation. However, their manufacturing process involves many toxic materials, which are highly harmful from a safety and health and environmental perspective. Different chemicals are used in the manufacturing of solar panels, particularly during the extraction of solar cells. For example, cadmium is used in cadmium telluride-based thin film solar cells as a semiconductor material to convert solar energy into electrical energy, a highly toxic element. The National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health considers cadmium dust and vapors as carcinogens, causing cancer. Likewise, many hazardous chemicals are used as solvents to clean dust and dirt from solar panels. In a research article, the impact on human health, safety, and environment was discussed for toxic compounds used in the solar industry, such as ammonia, used to produce anti-reflective coatings for solar PV modules. The impact: skin irritation, eye irritation, throat and lung problems, mouth and stomach burns. Silicon, used as a PV semiconductor material. The impact: crystalline silicon causes respiratory problems, irritates skin and eyes, and causes lung problems. Lead, used to wire the PV electrical components. The impact damages the nervous system, causing bone weakness, can also cause anemia, and is a high carcinogen element. And then again, cadmium, used in cadmium telluride-based solar cells as a semiconductor to convert solar energy into electricity. The impact: CD dust and vapors are highly toxic and considered carcinogens. Solar PV modules contain various toxic elements in electrical contact and or semiconductor material that could pose environmental and health risks during end-of-life management. The research community is still debating whether the amount of lead used in a solar cell poses a danger. Developing and improving PV technologies have received substantial attention. However, their potential environment risks remain unknown. There's so much uncertainty regarding solar PV modules. Lastly, we must be thankful, preserve our beautiful community, and enjoy it because we have one life to live. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much. And it seems like that's it for all the solar comments tonight. I appreciate you all coming and giving us your point of view. Very well presented. thank you very much. All right, next on the public comment is Ivan Zimmerman. And then we'll take care of you after Ivan then. We appreciate you sticking around for it.
He actually, I spoke with him, he actually left.
Oh, Ivan? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I thought maybe he was outside. Okay, so we're all good with that, we'll take it up and then.
We'll address it with.
All right, good enough. All right, yeah. All right, then we're gonna go on to Ron Construction, we're gonna move him up on the agenda, so you don't have to sit through the rest of the meeting. Appreciate your patience.
Thank you. Scott Trumbo with the H&K Group, here on behalf of the H&K Group and its affiliate company, Ronald Construction Materials Company. We entered into a lease agreement with the Kaufman family on property, approximately 65 acres, right along Monument Road between Route 78 and Old US 22, to place a ready-mix concrete plant on the property within the lease area. We submitted a plan back in February, received a comment letter from the Township engineer at the end of February, and at the February Planning Commission meeting, the plan was reviewed, and at that time, they did make a recommendation to the supervisors to grant preliminary final approval. The plan was, because we did not have our NIPD's review from the Conservation District at that time, to pause, come back once we have that. Unfortunately, we just received it May 11th. So we kind of just postponed coming. There was no point. We did receive the comment letter, and the purpose of waiting was to see what the comments from the Conservation District were, to see if it would have much of an impact on the plan. The comments we received really aren't going to have much of an impact. Obviously, we have to address them, and we will. So we are here tonight to request from the supervisors preliminary final approval of our plan, conditioned upon, one, receipt of the NIPD's permit, as well as receipt of the PennDOT permit for the low-volume driveway access that we're proposing along Monument Road. And there was a number of waivers that we're requesting that we can review as well. Real quick synopsis of the project: it's approximately 5 acres within that 65-acre property. It sits within the limited industrial zoning, which lies on the property. The property also falls within the residential medium density, which we are not within. We stayed outside of that. Approximately 30 deliveries per day on a good average is what we expect. Approximately 4 employees, 10 truck drivers will show up to work, and we'll have 10 mixer trucks on the site. So anywhere on average, that's about 90 to 110 trips with sand and aggregate deliveries on a daily basis. That can increase based upon large jobs, but if you look at all the other ready-mix concrete plants that we have within the group, that's a pretty good average. Obviously, there's days that are far less. Sewage will be handled with a holding tank. We anticipate 40 gallons per day with the 4 employees that would be on site. On-site wells, there'll be 1 well that will be utilized. And then utilities, Med-Ed, electric, and obviously Verizon for our internet. The small stormwater structure at to the rear of the property that'll obviously handle stormwater. As far as the project itself, it's pretty basic. It's a smaller ready-mix concrete plant. Access again will be via Monument Road.
That is the plant that's out at Cromsville currently, correct?
Not sure.
No.
It could be, but it really, to be honest, has not been determined yet. So it really comes down to 1, timing, and 2, if that plant will go where we're talking about or somewhere else. Without getting into a whole bunch of details, I just open it up to questions. Any specific questions you have?
There was supposed to be a note on the print about water usage. correct? Are you aware of that?
Yes, I'm aware of it. We reviewed it, we see no problem with that. Basically, any water drawn from the property, from the wells, would be used for the on-site use.
But it was an estimate of what, 600 or 700 gallons a day? And if we go over that, we would need to be notified about, you know, what the potential usage would be.
Right, okay. I don't see that as a problem. To be quite honest, water usage for this use is actually somewhat limited. You don't put a lot of water in the mix.
Yeah.
So we have a pretty good control of that and what we're using, so being able to monitor that and really understand how much we're using should not be an issue.
That's a central mix plant, isn't it?
Going down the road.
That that you're putting there, central mix.
Correct.
Is this a temporary or a permanent?
Permanent.
That's permanent, so it'll always be there.
Permanent from the perspective of our lease, I believe, and don't hold me to it, I believe is 20 or 30 years.
So we can answer that. Supervisors couldn't answer that question in past meetings.
So it's permanent. Is that how Crimswell's? Oh, you don't.
That's not permanent.
That's not permanent, that's.
That
that's
was there to
temporary.
support the 78 project, so.
I have another question, just quickly. Windsor Township doesn't currently, or did not currently have an ordinance for sewer holding tanks. I was told that in the past here. You can't have a holding tank, there's no ordinance here in Windsor Township.
In
to
an
have a
industrial
sewer
zone?
holding tank.
This is in the industrial zone.
I was just told there was no ordinance for holding tanks for sewer in Windsor Township.
This is no longer public comment, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman.
Are you kidding me?
Go ahead, you have the floor.
I was pretty much done, unless,
Okay.
you know, I'd open it up to your specific questions and not
Do
belabor.
you guys have any other comment on it?
Is there, so you said it's gonna be a permanent structure, so there's gonna be some building of that structure, correct?
The plan itself,
Yeah.
would obviously, it's gonna sit on concrete foundations. We'll be submitting building permits, obviously, for the foundations. There's a lab building, and a smaller office that will obviously supply the permits for those buildings as well.
You can submit those directly to LTO.
Right.
Not at Holdings.
Right.
Do you have any other comments on
I was gonna
anything that he
actually-
presented?
I was just gonna ask about the building permits and.
That's it?
That's great, yeah. I just wanna make sure we're getting those directly to LTL, so we can review them as fast as possible.
Right, staff level reviews, the building permits,
Yeah.
holding tank, those items we understand, obviously, will follow it, you know, prior to actual construction.
All right, so tonight you're looking for preliminary?
This would be, and I probably wasn't clear, preliminary final, so,
Preliminary final.
because of the nature of the project, we met with our initial submission, preliminary and final requirements, and the planning commission did make the recommendation for preliminary final. So that's what the request is tonight.
It's been a couple months, so
Can you check on that? We're not doing question and answer.
Question.
What about a traffic study done?
Yeah.
With all of the deliveries and stuff, and the coming and going?
Does clean up.
That's what I was just gonna say,
Stop
traffic
light.
control to get those trucks out of there, they're never gonna get out of there, or there's gonna be a lot of crashes. Cause just coming out of Sunday Road in Old
Yep.
22, somebody's on my bumper in no time, and I don't see anybody coming from Leonardsville to go to Amber. So it's just a heads up.
Do you know, is this just gonna be like open to the public too, or is it just her?
No, this will be, normal business.
I figured that's what.
Will you be selling to local contractors?
Yeah, this is open, unlike the one down the road, which is predominant for the 78 project.
Yeah.
This would be normal business.
I couldn't hear you for what?
For normal business. It's not for a specific project.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Has there been, and Tom maybe can answer this, has there been a review by the SEO concerning the use of the holding tank for sewer systems?
There has not.
So I think that needs to be done before you're in, that's a general comment that was on Mr. Hoffman's letter.
Okay.
There will also need to be a developer's agreement for this project. And was the plan submitted to the local fire chief?
We've made multiple attempts to connect with the local fire chief at the request of the
Right there. He's right there, so you can talk to him tonight.
Up until tonight.
So that will need to be done as well. So I think at this point there still are some outstanding issues before you can grant your approval.
So the developer's agreement is typically done once you receive.
The developer's agreement we could do contingent.
Okay, I just want to make it clear so I understand what you're saying.
That's not something that I'm concerned about, but I think that we need the SEO review, and we need the fire chief review before they can make a decision. And
okay, that's fine. We still have to deal with the conservation district. We waited to this point.
Do you have concerns about the traffic study?
No, I'm not familiar with the plan.
Okay. Can you make sure that our engineer gets a copy of the plan so he can review it as well?
The planning, we're not the planning commission engineer, we're the township engineer. So the planning commission here, you've been dealing with GVC.
Right.
So if you could send me a set of plans.
So I'll get to deal with two engineers
You
on
do.
this project.
You
That's
get
great.
the privilege of dealing with two. But I'll work up the improvement agreement costs. And
Yeah,
well,
that's
you'll
typical.
submit them to me
Yeah, that's
as
typical.
normal.
Yeah.
You know, you know the rules.
Yeah, that's
And if you can send what your sewage usage is gonna be.
Yeah, it's in the application. I'll certainly send it to you, Tom.
Yeah, and then I can get the sewage enforcement officer to review that.
So you're looking for the SEO and fire marshal to weigh in on this. Are there any other specific questions while I'm here?
Any comment? Any comment here? No, I guess once we have all that figured out, bring it back and we'll see where we go. And you said, Scott Brennan is his name, he's outside the door there.
Okay.
He can give you Jared.
Jared.
Oh, Jared's out there?
Yeah, Scott is in the back too.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. That's it for public comment. All right, so we're gonna go on to the reports, financial status. You got it. Get the doctor.
If you have a handout, just to real points as far as financial status as of this point, the handout, the second to the last page would be the revenues. The one thing of, well, as far as income, of course, taxes, line item 310.21, the earned income tax, and that's not even quite half the year. $202,000 some dollars, that is above budget amount. And of course, all of us know, obviously, the bad part is the interest we pay, but also the interest we receive. This is not quite half the year. We have totally received $20,500 some dollars. The total revenues received as of today, in all accounts, $531,157.29. The last page shows the expenditures as of today. And of course, the main expenditures, of course, would be the road work, and that's coming up this summer. So you take notice that the total expenditures compared to the revenue, the expenditures $301,434.00. But of course, that will change once we do our road projects. Anyone have any quick questions concerning finances?
You tell me. All right, thank you. All right, zoning officer, Mr. Wessler.
Nothing moving forward with what I had last month. Everything kind of just, 2 items were taken care of, and 3 of them will be going to the magistrate.
And that, let's see, that's the animals.
Yeah, I have, I guess there was a little progress on animals removed off, but I still am seeing.
What did you actually find out there?
Well, a fenced-in area with, looked like several goats and chickens, but under the acreage of what's allowed. So I wrote the letter based on what I saw.
Okay.
And took pictures.
And the dogs?
The dog's barking, yeah. Yeah, the second I got out there.
Okay. Yes, just so I can
But
convey that information to them.
I've had the only reason I'm moving forward with it, I've had no's. Because usually if someone calls me and we can work forward to resolving the issue, but no one's called me,
Okay.
and I've sent my letter. My next will be the final letter with that one.
All right. Is that it?
Yes.
Any other comment? You have anything more? No? All right, thank you. Engineer and SEO, Mr. Unger.
Thank you. You have the sewage enforcement officer's activity report for the month of May. There was 1 installation of a system, and inspected, and final inspection and that passed. So that was all for SEO. This I can address, if you would want me to go right into that.
Yep, that'll be fine.
All right. Port Clinton Avenue. We had submitted, back in end of the year, or January, for a FEMA grant. The results of that application, this is federal, so this is nationwide. There were 46 communities and tribal nations that received grants, 1 in Pennsylvania. The breakdown was 26 municipal and 20 tribal nations. So Windsor did not, of course, was not the one for Pennsylvania.
All right, well, while we're on that subject, have you heard anything from the solicitor in Hamburg lately about the intergovernmental agreement?
Nothing, actually.
Well, they had their meeting last night, and there was no action taken on the Port Clinton Avenue issue. And I don't think we have the luxury now that we can sit around and wait for them. It's my recommendation that we do the science study, traffic study, and figure out what we need to do to get this weight limit put on that road. Regardless of what they wanna do, I mean, when we talked about this 4 months ago, we had already agreed to pay the $2,500 for the study. And when Dennis and I went to the meeting, I basically conveyed that to them. And they were the one that brought up about splitting it. Well, it doesn't look like they wanna do anything with it now. So, like I said, we don't have the luxury to sit here and do nothing about it. And it was the recommendation of GSI to put that weight limit on the road. So, and now since we're not getting a grant, I think we absolutely need to do it, because we don't know when it could get fixed.
Okay.
At this point. So, that's why I'm recommending that we do the traffic study and get the signage up that needs to be up, and see what happens. Well, West Brunswick, they have such a small area. I don't think it's gonna matter to them one way or the other. We'll have to let them know that there's gonna be signs out at 61 in their township.
So you want me to inform the other solicitors that we're moving forward?
Yeah.
With the traffic study.
With the traffic
And
study.
then we'll address signage once we have the traffic study complete.
Yeah, we can't wait around on them. Is there any change out there, Ben?
Haven't been up with
I didn't know if you're out that way or not.
it. It wasn't raining, so it didn't shift.
Well, that's, if you get a chance sometime, the last time I was up through there was like 2 weeks ago and didn't really
Well,
notice anything.
I was up 2 weekends ago, cause we got called for trees down up there, but I wasn't looking for that. So we went up, got rid of the trees and left.
Okay. And now, and I had said something to Tom Russell, when we do this traffic study and whatnot, they're gonna have to create some kind of detour in Hanford. You know, so they, you know, we wanna give them the opportunity to be involved in that because they're gonna be driving through their residential districts. You know, to the detour to get back to Port Clinton Avenue. So you may wanna give them a heads up and say, we're doing a study, but you know, we wanna know what you'd like in the borough as far as detour. Because there's 3 different roads that they could take to get back to Port Clinton Avenue. And it's up to them to decide as far as I'm concerned. You know, whether or not they're gonna contribute to the fee, whatever, we're not gonna wait for them.
Okay.
Alright. Alright, that's all I have for Port Clinton Avenue. Any
Okay.
comment on that? Do you have something else?
Pondview Drive, Pool 22, Hamburg Authority, met with PennDOT. PennDOT granted and allowed the work to proceed with an emergency, under the emergency permit regulations. The authority repaired 2 sections of pipe, replaced 2 sections of pipe. They believe that the bedding and backfill was not compacted properly, and which caused to the pipe sag. So those 2 pipes, 2 different areas were repaired. They currently have temporary paving in them. Probably permanent paving will occur in 30, 45 days.
Yeah, I heard they have 90 days, I think.
Yeah, so that's that. Kersher Creek Townhouses, we met with the developer, the HOA, and the contractor. Everyone's playing nicely right now. Everyone's in agreement and working towards resolving some of the issues there with the stormwater and the piping and the pond and everything. So nothing to report there. We keep monitoring it and we'll be inspecting it as the work progresses. And we're trying to keep the HOA involved because it gets turned over to the HOA. And that would be it.
All right, any other comment? No? All right, thank you. All right, Roadmaster, what do you have for us, Ben?
Beginning of May, I went down, took the test for the Core and the Cat 10 right-of-way spraying, and I did pass that, so now I'm certified to spray for the township. We just gotta renew our license number and stuff, so
Thank you for that.
as soon as we get that, we can see how the weeds are. They're not bad right now, cause
Yeah.
everything's dry, so. We got the trailer from Middletown Borough. We went and cleaned that up, got that painted, that license plate's in the mail, so that should be here soon, hopefully.
Yeah, it looks good.
We mowed the township shoulders for the first time, so that's all taken care of, and we did the PennDOT ones also. Other things, like to get a couple of roads swept and intersections swept, so we can get the lines painted on the ones we did the road work on the last 2 years. And then since we didn't do that much plowing, we got anti-skid at the intersections. So I have 10 roads, 10 intersections. 2 companies called, one's from Myerstown. I'm gonna call him Tim the Sweeper, cause I forgot the company's name. He said, he has an air vac truck without the brooms, it's just suction truck. It's $110 an hour, and he'll need water, and he can dump into our trucks. So, I figured 2 days, 16 hours, come to $1,760. Now, the The other company is Evercore from out here at Kutztown. They have a regular sweeper brush truck. They're at $174.76 an hour, so it would come to $27.96.16. Both of them could do it the end of June, beginning of July. So,
Did you ever get a hold of that painting contractor that I gave you?
no, I already talked to somebody, the same guy before that.
Oh, I talked to him.
Yeah.
Is he the one that's gonna do the painting, or?
Well, that's up my next thing for the
Oh,
quote.
okay.
So, cause right now the sweep, it's Kohler Hill, Fox Lane, Hoffner, Woodland, Dunn, Ridge and Oval, Constitution, Pennsylvania, and Independent. Those are the roads, comes to 6.3 miles one way.
And none of that's gonna be around where we're
Nope.
overlaying?
Nope. That's all in the roads we did, except for Kohler Hill, Ridge and Oval. Those we did the other year. Well, Constitution, Independence, that just has a bunch on from the anti-skid on from not plowing. And the rest of the intersection just going through here.
Any comment? Get Tim the sweeper?
So I'll call.
Yeah, line him up.
So, next thing was, line painting. Right now I have down for Drive Abyss Mill Road, Fox Lane, Hoffner, Dunn, Woodland, Kohler Hill. Both, Hoffner and Dunn, I wasn't gonna put white lines on. The rest I was gonna. Right now that comes to roughly $3,700. So, and that's through A1 traffic control. They're the ones that did the county for the last number of years. They also painted for the borough, Tilden.
Yep.
They're gonna be doing Greenwich in July, so he'd said if, maybe they'll come back at the same time if we would get them and tie them in. They were over in Richmond, Macatoni and stuff, so.
We haven't found any other options,
No.
so, I
But
mean,
I
that's
didn't know-
not bad.
I didn't know if you wanted to do any other, touch up any of the other roads or not before. Cause I have to fax that into him then, what roads we wanna do, so.
All right,
Cause all those are just been redone in the last couple of years, so those should get lines put back on, but I didn't know if you wanted to touch up any
what was
others.
that list again?
Drive Abyss Mill, Fox Lane, Hoffner, Dunn, Woodland, and Kohler Hill. That's that whole section over there,
Yeah, okay.
so.
Yeah, those are all in pretty bad shape.
Yeah, cause those we just did, so those don't have any lines at all.
Yep. Any comment? Yeah, get him set up.
Just
Get
those,
on-
no.
Yeah, get on his agenda, and if we feel like we need to add one, I'm sure we can get a hold of him and put it in.
That's, and then, our blocks are ready and at 4 Wings End too, so I'm gonna hopefully pick them up next week. Our Lego blocks that we had ordered.
Yep, all right.
So, but, that's all I have.
All right.
So Ben, I'd just like to. It was in time for Memorial Day. That was nice. Looks good. Oh, I thought Ben was doing it.
No, I
He
Well, thank
got
you.
it and I didn't have time, so.
I
took care
was
of it.
waiting for it. I was looking for it because it looked pretty shredded. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh, it looks so nice now.
You're welcome.
I pass it on because he did it, so.
Alrighty. On to parks, we have, a list that Roger gave us, again, pretty much the same list. The only thing different was, kitchen needing paint. I said to Ben, there's an auction on Saturday I wanna go to, see if I can pick up a refrigerator for in there so we can get rid of that behemoth that's in there. So, you wanna give that list to Ben then? I saw Roger the other day, he didn't say anything about any of it, but I do have another source for changing those doors on the bathrooms. I don't know if you were here when Randy Straub worked on the old building, the roof over the entry. Yeah, he has a guy that does that stuff.
Did you your brother, whatever, about for the kitchen drains, the tools?
Oh, just go, I think they're $14. Just get one at Kuzan's in the truck. Yeah, I didn't know, I forgot about that, I didn't know if you took care of it or
That
not.
takes
Just-
care of number 4.
Yeah, just, yeah, it's $14, just buy one. All right. Nothing else for the park? Any comment on it? What about the basketball court? That's on the list, the painting of the lines, yeah.
Oh, I did get the paint for that. I just gotta go get tape.
Does it have to be pressure washed first?
I wanna definitely.
Yeah, 'cause there's a lot
scrub
of
it
mold
down
and stuff on it.
and stuff, but yeah, I did get the paint for that.
Okay.
So, now that we're doing our pipe work, once that's over, and, did we hear anything about our blacktop work? Any schedule? on
Next
that?
week, they're supposed to be coming back with dates next week for pre-construction meeting.
So I should be able to get that in before, in between there.
Yep. All right, thank you. All right, next up, solicitor, Mr. Farbiars.
What I have for you is on the agenda, Blue Heron. So I had sent out an email yesterday with the land development improvements agreement as well as the stormwater controls. I have copies if anyone on the board needs a copy. This is, I'll pass these around.
They were all in the email.
They were in the email.
Yeah, I don't need a copy of it.
I didn't have
it in
it
the email, sorry. All 29 pages.
Yeah, this is relatively, standard. What we're waiting for at this point is the draft letter of credit to review. I spoke with Mr. Zimmerman at the beginning of the meeting, and he understands that that's what we're waiting for at this point. He has plans, the planning commission needs to sign them. I told him to come to the June 20th meeting at the middle school. I asked him to arrive a little bit early so the planning commission could sign those plans. And then I told him that this would be on the agenda for approval at the July meeting of the board.
Yeah, provided he has the letter of credit.
Right, I've been in touch with the bank, so I'm not concerned that he won't. But yes, that would be required.
Yep. Okay.
So I didn't know if anyone on the board had any questions on the agreement.
Well, I mean, it was all in the email, I said.
Right.
Fun reading.
Yep.
I don't have none.
Yep.
There's standard.
Yep.
Right, it's standard, and we have the cost estimate that's been approved by the township engineer.
All right. Anything else?
Not at this point.
All right. Thank you. Okay, Jared, you can come in. There you are.
I'm here. All right, so the fire company for year-to-date as of today is at 302 calls of service to the community. Just want to give everybody an update. In the last month, we've had, since we put ATV 61 into service, we've had 3 calls of service already. So that is proven to be a very useful tool that we've now added at Hamburg. And has helped with a forest fire and 2 water rescue incidents, out in West Brunswick Township. So, been in touch with Rob Consultant just regarding the starting of the consulting long-term planning for the fire department. Just requesting the signature get completed, just buying the contract with him and the other 2 municipalities. We've started providing information off of his wish list, so we're going to be just working through that here in the upcoming months to get him the data that he needs as we compile the safety survey. So that's all in progress.
Have you read over the agreement with Rob Consulting?
I have not.
I can get you a copy.
If you want to just scan over quick.
So we have that item of business. Dating request that I had sent over to Craig, just with regarding to how the fire service run cards are drafted and sent in. After speaking with DES, we've had a number of run card changes that we've been making with apparatus updates run responses. We've been creating some new run cards for our high occupancy locations in the It does require both the fire chief and the EMS's chief signature before they will take those updates. And because we have not had the EMS signature, it's held them up. So we would like to take the Tilden model, which will allow the fire chief to submit changes as they need in, and it would be off of their recommendation. They submit it into DES. It doesn't need the ambulance agency to sign off and approve on those updates. So it's a little bit of just a rewording. EMS can't change fire, fire can't change EMS, so it just realigns the authorization to approve and to submit. So we currently have that model in Tilden. So as soon as we have a change and I need to submit in a new run card, it's within a 2-week time frame of Berks getting to it in their sequence that they have. It doesn't need a second party signature to authorize it. So I just have a request that we update that form that was done in the past, that we give the fire chief solution needed, and I have that information that I can pass on for that update.
Well, as far as the run cards go, are you just talking about updating your equipment status, or are you looking to make wholesale changes of the run cards in Windsor Township?
So it would be the Hamburg run card sections. It would be any changes to those run card sections on the Hamburg cards. Not the Versionville sections would still have their authority on their side. So it would only affect the signature on I call it, it's the inner and the middle cards is how I term them in the township. So it would just be the run cards that Hamburg has had for a number of years. That's all that it would involve.
Do we want pre-approval from the supervisors to look everything over before any authorized changes are made? Yeah, because ultimately, I mean, we're responsible for everybody in Windsor Township. I mean, and that's kind of the gist of it. I mean, you guys are doing your job, Virginsville is doing their job, but we want to be more involved with what's going on here. Because I think in the past, we kind of let Scott, you know, do what he wanted to do, and he just brought it back, and I think we need to be more involved in it.
So just to give a background on how our run cards are set up on the Hamburg section, Berks DES has made the policy that we need to use the time distance studies. We've applied every recommendation that's out there. So what I can say is, speak on behalf of Hamburg, is we have taken that those safeguards are in place on behalf of you folks as the supervisors.
Yeah,
So.
but I'd like for us to be able to review it. And even if you'd ever want to make any other changes with, you know, Virginsville and yourselves, I think if we get it in wording right now, it'll be set for as long as we need it, if there's any changes needed to be made, but we would still, I feel that we should be able to review everything before any changes are made.
Keep in mind that is gonna hold up.
Oh, I
the
understand,
process.
I understand that, but it's, you know, I think it's part of the process that we need to be involved in. Any comment?
I think we should be too.
I didn't hear it, Dennis, what did you say?
I think we should be involved.
I mean, I understand it may delay it a month or two, but it's not like we're looking to, run your business, you know, but we wanna be made aware of what's going on, and before it's all finalized.
And I'll just use the example that we did here on why this came about was we added the ATV unit. So that resulted in us having to add an apparatus to create, and then you have to realign your run cards and your call tapes on that. So
Yeah.
that's where it came up.
And that's the thing as well too, you know, Virginsville may add a piece of equipment and that could change things too, so we want you guys to work together with what you have, you know, but we just don't wanna, we wanna be involved in it a little more, I think. I think it's to everybody's advantage if we are.
I think I submitted them in the last, there was a set of cards that were done in the last year. When we did them, I thought I provided them in a.
Scott had signed
handout.
something.
I had provided a copy though in our report.
Yeah, I think Scott's name was on that. And that's another thing, we should have something that with his, that his name isn't on anymore.
Well,
That he's
the
no
run
longer
cards
sitting-
would just be the authorization of the fire chief.
Yeah, but I mean, we still have stuff out there with Scott's name on it. So if you wouldn't mind, I mean, like I said, we'd like to be in the review process.
How do you wanna handle that, a one-on-one to review it? or-
Well, I mean, we'd like to review it.
It's a complicated process to explain, that's why I'm just asking.
Well, hey, if we have to sit down, you know, if you wanna sit down with us and Mark and just look everything over and make sure nobody's stepping on anybody's toes, you know,
Well,
we're fine with it.
But the authorization of Hamburg would be Hamburg's cards, or,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
he still has his, say
Yep.
his, we don't have
Yep.
any interjection on that, so.
Yep.
It would apply to both
Yeah,
agencies.
both, yeah, both entities. So whenever you decide to make a change, you let us know, and then we'll sit down and talk about it. If that's all right. Did you have any comment on this, consulting?
I do not.
Okay, I mean, we had agreed to it before, we were just sitting here waiting for the other.
Yeah.
Tilden just did theirs tonight.
Yeah.
As soon as we get to the next meeting, everybody's getting signatures within the month, so.
The amount has changed. It initially
yes.
was seven grand per.
It
What
did.
is it now?
It's 10,000 for 10,000 max.
Yeah, not to exceed.
Between,
10.
yeah, between the three of us.
I think it was what, 3,000 apiece, 3,500 apiece. So yeah, so it changed a little bit since the original consulting
it is.
was done.
Correct. Right there. That's a new proposal.
Okay.
And what happens when you get the first bill? You just gonna,
I'll find out.
how do you wanna figure it out with Rob? I mean, cause you're gonna be getting money from three sources.
Yeah, that was one of, Tilden's gonna reach out to me next week, just on how we were gonna coordinate that.
Well, let us know.
We'll
what
let
you
you
come-
know.
Yeah, let us know what you come up with. But we need to do this in form of a motion.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, there's a motion is made to, hire Rob Consulting to assist the fire company in their financial survey. Dennis made the motion, I'll second, all in favor say aye. Ayes have it.
And the chairman is authorized to sign the agreement.
Okay, yeah, will you bring a copy of the agreement, or do you have
I
one?
have one with.
Okay.
Do you want me to email you a copy, Russ, or?
Yeah, once it's fully executed by all the municipalities, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah,
should,
I'll
and we
get,
should
once
have
I
a
have
copy, we should have
everything,
a
yeah.
signed copy
We'll get
for our
everybody
files as
copies,
well.
yeah.
Jared, you have a copy now that I have? Thank you.
Anything else?
No, EMA report, just working on a flood mitigation plan, that Tom and I are working through, just on some things, but, other than that, it's summer, just be aware of the weather patterns that are out there, and, you know, hopefully we don't have a severe hurricane season this year, but just, you know, do all your home preparedness and continue with that, so.
Okay, have you talked to the gentleman from H&K?
Yes, I gave
Outside?
him, yes.
Okay.
There were correspondence with them back in May, and then they went quiet. He said he didn't know, so, yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna touch base next week.
All right, that sounds good. All right. Any other comment? No? All right, thank you. All right, that pretty much takes care of old business. On to new business. Planning Commission appointees and the next meeting location.
Okay. The appointees, there would be, excuse me, Polly would be reappointed. And with that, it's a 4-year term. And Doris Ridenhour.
And their terms are up.
Both their terms are up in June of like to make a motion that we reappoint both of those people for those positions.
Did you have any other comment? No. All right. We got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those guys have it.
I asked her if she actually wants to go back on.
All these people are here to see you.
And the next meeting.
Yes. Any updates on the next meeting location?
The next meeting is June, the planning commission is June 20th. It is at the Hamburg Middle School LGI room.
And that's at 7?
At 7 o'clock.
Excuse me, was the alternate appointed on the planning commission?
Not yet.
No. No.
Was there any word on that? I know it was discussed at the last meeting.
It was, and my feelings on that is I'm not into changing any positions here until all this stuff with the solar panels set on. We have our panel set. I mean, if someone would resign, then we would make a replacement, but as far as an alternate, at this time, I'm not in favor of appointing anybody as an alternate.
Well, if there's
Any
an
other-
emergency,
The person
somebody
in
can
here.
fill.
We can fill it, we have applicants. And basically, all you do is that they fill out the rest of the term of the person that's not there.
Isn't that if a person's absent or not at a meeting, then the alternate fills in? Shouldn't there have to be an alternate if that person's not there?
No,
Or
as
if a
long as you have,
person
as long as you have a
recuses
quorum,
themselves?
as long as there's a quorum there.
If a
That would
person
be 3
recuses
people.
themselves, doesn't the alternate take over?
There's, like I said, as long as there's a quorum there, all you really need, there's 5 planning commission members, all you really need is 3 for the meeting.
It's the quorum requirement.
Yep. And at this time, I'm not in favor of injecting somebody on one side or the other into the mix. That's my personal opinion. All right. Okay. Wrong construction we talked about. Any other concerns or correspondence?
Just real quick, I'm sorry. I wanted to just let you know, I should have been on report. I got a call from Berks County. They're changing addresses everywhere. So we're working on that right now. Windsor, Greenwich, across Berks County. So there's a few areas where they messed up. The one side of the road's all even, and now for some reason they want to correct it.
Yeah, Woodland Court's another one.
So yeah, well, they're Old 22 supposedly is opposite, and it's not supposed. So they're trying to fix a bunch of stuff, and it's going to be just so you get a few calls when addresses change. I'll do my best to notify you.
That'll make people happy.
It's an online township, so
And I just printed out all those return labels.
just letting you make you aware.
Yeah, just my luck. All right, I'd like to make a motion that we pay the bills. Do I have a second? I'll second. All in favor, say aye. No reason to,
Can I bring you up to speed on an old business?
yep.
The culvert, Pine.
Fine.
Yep. So we've been going back and forth with DEP. This will be the 3rd month. I think we have it resolved now, where DEP wanted the culvert to be sized as wide as the floodplain channel is, which would be well over the 8-foot width and would then be classified as a bridge. And we've been fighting with DEP about, no, you don't put in a culvert as wide as the floodplain or the channel. It's what's required with, for the hydraulics. So I think we've won that battle, but that is what has been a 3-month holdup on that permit. Working with DEP is awful. They are understaffed and they are working from home still. So if you don't call them, they don't call you.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll have that soon and we can get that out for bid next summer. All right, so there's no other concerns? Nope, no reason to go into executive session this evening. I'd like like to make a motion, we adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second? I'll second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, everybody.